I call to order the March 10th, 2014 regular meeting of the Cincinnati Board of Education. We welcome everyone and request everyone, including our own board members, to silence their cell phones and other electronic devices. But again, we apologize for the second week in a row of being late for our start. We're coming out of an executive session that started at 5 and worked as quickly as we possibly could. With that, I will call for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Witt, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Bates.
Present.
Mrs. Copeland-Dansby.
Present.
Mrs. Hoffman. Here. Mr. Coons.
Here.
Mr. Manera.
Here.
Mr. Nelms.
Here.
President Bolton.
Here. Thank you very much. Under old business, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the special public meeting, February 18th, 2014, special meeting, February 24th, 2014, regular meeting, February 24th, 2014, and the special meeting, February 26th, 2014. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved as presented. Mrs. Bates, as chair of the Finance Committee, please present the February 19th, 2014 and the March 4th, 2014 Audit Committee meeting reports.
They are presented as written.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Mr. Nelms, as chair of the Policy Committee, please present the February 24th, 2014 committee meeting report.
Yeah, submitted as written.
Thank you. And Mr. Coons, as chair of Partnership Public Engagement, would you please present the February 26th, 2014 committee meeting report?
I present the minutes as written.
Thank you. Mr. Coons, also as chair of the Student Achievement Committee, would you please present the March 5th, 2014 meeting report?
I present the minutes as written.
Thank you. Do board members have any questions regarding the March 5th, 2014 Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, we need a voice vote to accept the committee reports as written. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. New business. Our first presentation tonight, and we started to hear much of it, but thank goodness they were here to entertain you as we were being late. That worked out perfectly. And I know you'd probably rather hear them than us. But at any rate, our first presentation tonight will be an academically focused presentation presented by Principal Stephen Brokamp of the School for Creative and Performing Arts. Mr. Brokamp, I think that's the first time we've ever had the introduction applauded. So we know that we're dealing with a School of Creative and Performing Arts, and we have audience etiquette involved. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. And I definitely want to recognize the students who performed with us, of course, and then Carter, Kelsey Fulmer, and Francesca want to. Thank you for having me here. Such a great job. If you didn't hear me, I was congratulating Leah Carter, Kelsey Fulmer, and Francesca Wantuk for their excellent performance tonight. I'd like to start off, we'd like to put our students at the forefront of everything that we do at SCPA. That's why we wanted them to give a little performance, but we also have a couple of students that will lead off tonight. Danny Bell, who is a drama major at our school and also a legend, and that has some meaning at the School for Creative and Performing Arts. That means that he's been with us since Shield, and he will graduate all the way through K through 12. He will present, and also along with him, Brianna Rice, who is a survivor at SCPA because she came in the 4th grade, and she'll go all the way through 12th grade. She is a creative writing student, and they wanted to have a few words real quick before we move on. So, my students.
All right, thank you. I wanted to start off by saying my experience here at SCPA has been phenomenal. Like you said, I've been here since Shield and 4th grade. SCPA, it brought out something in me that I didn't know I had in me. I've been an art major, a technical theater major, a drama major. I didn't know I can do all those things. And being in drama, I spend so much time at school, after school rehearsals. So pretty much everyone at the school is like a family, because when you spend like, I don't know, 9 hours a day with someone, I mean, you got to pretty much love them. So I kind of love I love the school. And the school is like a community. And there's a friend of mine who is currently suffering from cancer, and he was in a show. And he had to be removed from the show because he was in a hospital since November. He's still suffering. And our technical theater department, they built a wall for him to honor him and all of his heart going. And I like to say in the month of February, Black History Month, we did something a little different this year. We read off Black History facts every day. And on Friday, we gave a little trivia question, and then the winner will get a prize. I'm not quite sure what the prize was because I never won. But, you know, it's a little too late. I guess I have to try next year. So now I'll let Brianna talk.
Hi, I'm Brianna, and as he said, I've been at SCPA since the 4th grade. Like Danny, it has shown me so much, like community service. We have a thing called Unified for Uganda at our school where we're sponsoring 2 African children to go to school, and it's just so inspiring and enlightening to learn about people who have a situation that's worse than mine because I'm a teenager, and I think so. It's just really exciting. And I also did in creative writing a thing called New Voices with homeless veterans, and we took photography and used it as a form of journalism and helped a bunch of veterans who are just getting over addictions. And it was a really, again, way to engage with my community around me. I know so much more about Over the Rhine, and it's not anything before, and I want to be a writer. It's something that I wouldn't have been able to see as a possible career opportunity without SCPA. It means so much to me, and I love my school. So, do I get this?
All right, thank you very much to our students. And I just wanted to, you know, as Brianna was saying, our students really get involved not only in the school, but in the community and the world. You know, she was talking about Unified for UNIFAT, which is now called Unified for Uganda. And, you know, they're reaching out worldwide to help students better their education and have resources like we are blessed with here. I'm going to turn it over next to a couple of alumni and a parent, and included in that we have Juanita Monday and Jennifer Tim.
Good evening, I'm Juanita and this is Jennifer, and we're alumni at SCPA.
Alumni have been reflecting on the diverse backgrounds that come together at SCPA because of the arts, and we've shared those beautiful SCPA stories on YouTube. The graduates think about how different our experiences were than communities of prejudice that also exist in Cincinnati. We also wondered how intentional was SCPA's integration of races. Juanita and I would like to share with you the history of desegregation that created the opportunity for schools like SCPA.
In 1896, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld segregation, and in 1954, it declared unconstitutional the establishment of public schools for separate Black and white students.
Although local schools remained segregated, a 1965 federal judge found that here in Cincinnati, schools were not intentionally segregated, just a result of the racial composition of the neighborhoods they served. So by 1971, U.S. courts upheld forced busing. Superintendent Dr. Waldrop and the Cincinnati Board of Education, in their wisdom, created alternative schools, including SCPA in 1973. At these magnet schools, Cincinnati families were able to choose an integrated school community instead of being forced into one. In order to ensure long-term efforts at desegregation, the NAACP in 1974 filed suit demanding an end to segregated schooling across Cincinnati.
SCPA and the system of alternative schools was then placed under a federal supervision in 1993, until 1993.
By 2007, state Supreme Court rulings actually made the consideration of racial integration illegal in schools' admissions processes. It is now solely up to leadership to facilitate how the integration continues.
In a community that has a history of having race riots every 10 to 20 years, the alumni of SCPA thinks it's important to support the legacy of diversity, community, and the arts.
We feel that since the arts are a central component of life at SCPA, students have had transformative experiences that enable them to respect and enjoy friends from many backgrounds.
Transformation occurs when there's a connection with the head and the heart. And one of the things that the arts requires of us is that we go into our heart and bring what's in there out into the world. And so as alumni of performing arts, we were able to bear witness to each other's hearts on a daily basis.
We'd like to thank the Cincinnati School Board and the SCPA staff for creating a school where kids from all across Cincinnati neighborhoods have the context of the arts to learn collaboration, respect, and the heart of excellence.
Thank you.
So with all of our success, how in the world can we start to celebrate? You will note that our school is turning 40 years on May the 3rd. We are celebrating 40. We are bringing the best of the past and the present and the future of SCPA to Washington Park to showcase our beautiful Over the Rhine campus that is now as an extension of the Cincinnati Opera campus. We invite everyone to mark May the 3rd on their calendar. Join us in celebration. We have so much to talk about, and the success is there and there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. I would like to just touch on a few things that we're very proud of, our greatest assets at SCPA, and also some things that we regard as challenges, areas to continuously work on. First of all, I just want to say that I am incredibly grateful, I'd like to say that publicly, to be at the School for Creative and Performing Arts, working with so many wonderful people. That is our greatest asset, our students and our teachers. And it takes a very, very special student and a very, very special teacher to succeed at SCPA, because we have so much of the artistic focus, but then of course we have to have the academic focus. And that blend is a very wonderful opportunity to incorporate the arts into our teaching. And that takes some skill, and it takes some time and some experience. Very proud of our people. Our programs, of course, second to none in terms of, we pretty much broke the mold. We are the model nationally. Internationally, we've received a lot of attention. We have districts coming to us frequently to learn about how we perform, how do we actually created a K through 12 public arts school. People are always amazed when they see our facilities, which is another area. And we owe a debt of gratitude to the public-private partnership that we had to get the facilities at SCPA. You will find artists across the city who prefer to perform in our spaces over any other. The acoustics, the location, it's just fantastic. We sit in the arts campus of Cincinnati down by Music Hall and so many other artistic venues. And if we could flip back a little bit, maybe I think it's 5 slides to our vision and mission. A little over 2 years ago, when I came into SCPA as the principal, we did a refocus on our vision and our mission. And one of the reasons we felt it was important to do that is we were just very recently, we became a K through 12 school. So SCPA, if I can read the vision and the mission, is a world-class public arts school where dedicated students prepare for a lifelong involvement in artistic and scholastic pursuits. Our vision statement, also the mission of SCPA is to foster independent thinking in a creative and challenging environment by providing a diversified curriculum and environment for bright and talented students. We seek to offer preparation for higher education and professions in the arts. One way that we accomplish that is through our unique program. Something that we are very grateful to have is a lot of attention from higher institutions of learning, the colleges are attracted to our unique program. Our students over the last 3 years have averaged $11.3 million in scholarship offerings for an average graduating class of about 110. That says something about the uniqueness. That's what colleges are looking for. Certainly the scores, certainly the testing, but they look for that unique program and the unique opportunities that our students were mentioning earlier. The areas of challenge, the top 3 are actually directly related to our long-range plan. Also, when I first started, we have a partnership with the Executive Service Corps of Cincinnati, and they have helped lead us through a process of creating a long-range plan for our school. The top 3 of student achievement, and that's achievement in academics and artistic areas, recruiting and mentoring, and also communication promotion of the students' PR, if you will, but also opening opportunities for our students to get experiences anywhere we can get experiences for them, putting them out in front of the public. Those 3 areas are the major components of our long-range plan. And finally, one other challenge that we have had at the school has been transportation and safety for the students. As a principal, I see safety as, if not the number 1 area of importance, it's definitely at the very, very top. And, sometimes we are challenged by our location and the fact that our students come from all over the city. It's a wonderful thing to have, but it also presents some very unique challenges. The students walk through downtown to get from their bus stop to the school on rainy days, cold days, dark days. Students are driven in. We have pretty significant traffic problems. So that is something that we work on every single day, and I include it as one of our challenges because I feel safety is so important for the school. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rudnick, who's going to talk a little bit about our artistic programs.
Thank you, Mr. Brokamp. I just wanted to share a few recent artistic accomplishments that have been going on at SCPA. Many of you remember that we were winners of the Open Division in Mixed Youth Choir and Youth Jazz Choir at the 2012 World Choir Games. We competed with choirs from around the world and came home with the first place in 2 categories. Last summer, I had the honor of taking a student choir from SCPA grades 7 through 12 to Beijing, China, on a historic performance tour that affected us greatly and changed the way we think about ourselves and our communities here. The highlight of that tour was a performance with the youth choir of the National Symphony of China at the Forbidden City Concert Hall in front of 4,000 people. I am proud to say that we have the 2014 Young Arts National Silver Award winner in the discipline of Design Arts at SCPA. I am proud to say that we have had several scholarships awarded to our SCPA dance students to study at the world-renowned Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater Summer Intensive in New York City. There is no better dance company in the world.
You know that's right.
Acclaimed performances of the Broadway musical Peter Pan this last fall that featured over 200 SCPA student actors, musicians, designers, and technicians. During the 8-show run of Peter Pan, SCPA students performed for over 5,000 audience members in Cincinnati. Standing ovations at every performance. I'd like to congratulate our music departments for 4 years running our chamber orchestra and junior high choir has won the top awards at the Ohio Music Education Association State Orchestra Contest and Vocal Competition. Our wonderful drama ensemble has been awarded the Greater Cincinnati Cappies Young Theater Awards over the past 3 years, including Best Play, Supporting Actor, Lead Actor, Lighting, Design, and Featured Actress. I also don't want to leave out the younger students. Did you know that in December, our second and third grade violinists performed with Kenny Rogers at his concert at US Bank Arena? And our second and third grade choir students perform at venues throughout the city, including Duke Energy Center, the Aronoff Center for the Arts, and the Ronald McDonald House. SCPA works in partnerships with the National Underground Freedom Center, the Mayerson Foundation, CET, the Cincinnati Symphony, the Cincinnati Ballet, the Contemporary Arts Center, the Cincinnati Shakespeare Company, and the Taft Museum of Art to provide unique opportunities for our students to improve not only as artists, but as citizens. To sum up, SCPA students are making a positive and memorable contribution to society and the arts in Cincinnati. And now it's my pleasure to invite up a few of our students who would like to hand you each on the board an invitation to our upcoming productions. Thank you so much.
We invite questions as well if you have any questions for us.
Questions, board? Comments?
I have one. Go ahead, Chris.
Mr. Nelms.
Vice President. Well, thank you. I'm very excited to see you guys here tonight. I actually went to Shield and SCPA, kindergarten through 6th grade. My sister is a legend, which didn't exist back then because Shield and SCPA were separate, but that's a great new term. I always called her Survivor. But so SCPA is in our blood in my family. Quite literally, I actually have a scar on my hand that I got on the playground.
On the playground.
From playing soccer at the old SCPA playground. So it's with great honor that I see you guys present all the wonderful things that are happening. And Danny and Brianna, you guys are amazing products of this system. And so I just want to assure you that we're all very proud of what's going on there. It's critical that we have this shining star in our district and that it continues to shine. So congratulations for all you've accomplished.
Thank you.
Mr. Coons, Mr. Nelms.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for taking the time out to come and tell us what you do and what you do well. I was particularly pleased to hear about your 3 elements of goals at SCPA, and one is diversity, community, and arts, but I think you need to add exposure and opportunity to that. Mr. Bell and Ms. Rice, what are your professional aspirations? And when I see you, Mr. Bell, this might be a little bit ahead of your time, but I see you as a young Sidney Poitier. Yes. I just would like to know, what are your future aspirations professionally, you two?
Go ahead, Brianna.
I want to go to NYU for film and playwriting and then become a film writer.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah, I plan on going to Chicago, LA, or New York and become an actor. And once I get tired of that, maybe I'll start directing and producing my own movies and plays.
Right.
Good job.
Like the dream.
Mr. Manera.
Well, thank you very much, and especially to the students. I know the hard work you put in, but you know how I know about the hard work you put in? One factor that I didn't hear, but I know it's in the back of everybody's mind, and that's the parents. And I know we have lots of parents here. I think one of the gifts that SCPA has is that the parents are behind our students, and they work really hard, are advocating for what they need. So to the parents, I thank you, and I know the board thanks you as well for being as involved as you are. Thank you.
As a matter of fact, the folks that are here from the school, both family and staff, please stand if you would, so we can applaud you. Are there other questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Green, I don't know why I'm calling you Mr. Green. Don't change your name, though. Mr. Bell.
Yes, sir.
Should we get your autograph now or later?
Whenever you want, I'll give you my number and call me.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very, very much. You did it, as always, you did your school proud, and you do us proud every time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we continue to have a star-studded cast tonight with our next presentation. Some very important folks continue, and it is a presentation regarding providing health services at CPS. And there are a number of folks that will be introduced, and we will lead off with Dr. Marilyn Crumpton from the Cincinnati Board of Health, and my hope is that she'll be able to make sure that we get all the introductions that we need as this proceeds. Dr. Crumpton?
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you so much for inviting us to come and talk. The work on health and the partnership with Cincinnati Public, I've talked a little bit about it, but not in the setting, has just been, it's what I called a career changer because it's allowed me as a pediatrician to really be able to get to the population level of making a difference in the lives of children, and that there's nothing that serves more the vision of a pediatrician than that. I'd like to introduce first Dr. Camille Jones, and she's the Assistant Health Commissioner for Environmental and Community Health. And they've just done a really intense project, and when I spoke with Madam Chair, she told me that she had been reading this wonderful article about life expectancy, and so we agreed that one of the best ways to begin would be to have Dr. Jones come and talk to you about that. Dr. Jones?
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I've been told that I have a very small amount of time, so I'm going to try to go quickly. I provided some handouts of slides. I'm not going to go through all these slides, but there are some resources in there, which is why I wanted to make sure that you all had it. Let's see, clicker. Okay, so basically I'm going to be talking a little bit about life expectancy calculations that we made. The health department had previously put out information about mortality rates, and the life expectancy and the mortality rates come from the same data set, basically death certificates where you have information on age, race, sex, cause of death, and the address. The addresses are geocoded into census tracts. The census tracts were re-aggregated into the neighborhoods, the neighborhood approximations that are put out by the city planning department. And then we were able to talk about what's happening neighborhood specific. First, I'm just going to start off, though, just in general in Cincinnati. This was a list of the top 10 causes of death in Cincinnati. These are age-adjusted rates to the U.S. 2000 population. And you see heart disease, cancer, stroke, chronic lower respiratory diseases, diabetes, accidents, Alzheimer's, kidney disease, flu and pneumonia, and assault, i.e. homicide, as the top 10. For the U.S., homicide is not in the top 10. I wanted to show you a little bit, some of the questions that we had was when we present these rates, people look at it and it's like, okay, is 805 high or low? What does it mean? I'm going to talk a little bit more. That's the reason why we did life expectancy. This is just a little bit, just for your information, the homicide rate in youth, 15 to 24 in Cincinnati by neighborhood. And this is just to show you that some neighborhoods had no deaths among youth for homicide, and some have a death rate of up to 70 or 80 per 100,000. Again, what does that mean? Life expectancy is a much more intuitive measurement to measure health in neighborhoods, because if you say to somebody, you're living 5 years less than somebody else, people know what that means, okay? Life expectancy is a calculation, and I have here the information, but I'm not going to bore you by going through the spreadsheet. But basically what you're doing is you're taking the number of people in each age group in a neighborhood, the number of people who died in each age group in that neighborhood. You calculate age-specific death rates, just like what I just showed you for homicide. And then you say, if you took a group of newborns in this neighborhood and followed them throughout their life, and at every stage of their life, they had death rates like what you just calculated for that neighborhood, what would the average lifetime be? So that's what life expectancy is. It's a calculation, and if people would like to talk to me afterwards about this calculation or at any time, you can do it. This is what we found for Cincinnati, that I don't know if this is a pointer, that the overall life expectancy was 76.7 years. That's 2 years lower than the U.S. average, which is 78.7 years. We found differences in life expectancy between males and females of about 6 years difference, where females having a higher life expectancy. Life expectancy difference between blacks and whites of about 8 years, with that difference much more marked among males, a difference of 10 years in life expectancy between black males and white males, 63 versus 73 years. But even these differences, which are astounding and appalling, were dwarfed by the differences in life expectancy by neighborhood. And this is a slide showing South Fairmount, which was the neighborhood that had the lowest calculated life expectancy, 66 years, all the way up to Mount Lookout, Columbia Tusculum, which had an 88-year life expectancy, 20-year difference in life expectancy by neighborhood. And so these are things, when you can see and understand the impact in these terms, then hopefully that's something that can motivate change. When you map the life expectancy, we mapped it on the map of Cincinnati. The more intense color, the darker colors are the neighborhoods that have the lowest life expectancy. And you can see that the map somewhat mirrors the map for concentrated poverty in Cincinnati. I don't have the concentrated poverty map up, but it's sort of similar. So we know certainly that neighborhood poverty is one of the things that can be associated with lower life expectancy. But life expectancy is a calculation, it's not a promise. If one lives in a lower life expectancy neighborhood, that doesn't mean, boom, you're gonna, this is your number, that's it. It's something basically, calculating this is supposed to motivate action, and that's what we're hoping will be happening. What I have here is just a background paper that goes into a lot of detail about a lot of different potential things that could affect disparities in life expectancy. The first ones that they mention, of course, education, employment, and income, but there are chapters for each of these different aspects, and certainly if people would like to have that paper, I can send it to you as a PDF file. Don't try to print it, it's about 106 pages. The concept of concentrated poverty is one that people may not be familiar with, but that's where at least 40% of neighborhood residents have income below the poverty line, and people have found that if you are poor and you live in a neighborhood that has the concentration of poverty, your outcomes will be less good than if you had the similar level of poorness in a neighborhood that had more opportunity. And so that's something that maybe the schools can also be thinking about. What can the schools do to help children in these neighborhoods? This is just one of the resources that we have. This is the Cincinnati Health Department website. The maps, the graphs, the actual numbers for life expectancy by neighborhood can be accessed through this web link. We also developed for 19 neighborhoods, neighborhood-specific profiles with information that might be very interesting that people could look at. I'm mentioning that we will be doing a training come August on health impact assessment, and we could talk more about that later if people are interested. And then these are some other resources. One of them, Understanding Neighborhood Effects of Concentrated Poverty from HUD. So these resources are things that you may find interesting as you consider actions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I was stunned when I first read this in the Enquirer. Your work is phenomenal and actually has an impact certainly on decisions we have to make for our children and families. It's alarming but incredibly useful to us. And please, there might be some questions at the end of the presentation, or you want to ask now, Mr. Nelms?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, since this is a monumental undertaking and everything you presented is not anything new, at least not to me. what partners are you working with? Because I know the Cincinnati Health Department can't do it alone. What community or outside partners are you engaging to make sure we address this problem of disparity across the board?
We had a roundtable discussion in January 10th that had a large number of people come and participate in discussing what are things that are associated with life expectancy. We certainly are willing to partner with everybody, and we have several folks who have actually come to us, suggesting different types of actions, and certainly more are welcome. I think you're right that it's something that has to be done by everybody. It's not something that we can address by ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Yeah, thank you for putting this on paper. I think what Mr. Nelms is saying, we probably all knew. Seeing it here is startling. I'm assuming these are very similar in other cities of our size and larger cities, that they experience these same kind of demographic information. Are there cities that are actually moving the needle on this and that are doing things that we can replicate?
Yes, there are several cities that I'm aware of that have produced life expectancy information. One of them is actually Columbus, and in Columbus, they've actually developed health councils, sort of like regional health councils or health districts, where people came together on the basis of having life expectancy information and said, let's prioritize some of the low-lying fruit that we can see in our particular region and see if we can get together to move change. There's some people in California who have actually done things related to blight and, actually got legislation that required banks that had properties that had been foreclosed to actually do something about those properties rather than just letting them sit there and deteriorate. Cuyahoga County has produced life expectancy data. I haven't seen what they have had come out of it printed yet, but they're working in it, and there are several other areas, people who are working on it. I think that really the thing is the motivation of action, because, while you can't do everything, even if you do something, that's going to be helping, the city and the neighborhoods.
Yeah, and I think from the city's point of view, I know the city is doing a number of the things that you're talking about. They're moving on some of those, real estate issues, et cetera. From a board's perspective, are there, from those different counties and states and cities that you just mentioned, are there things that people are doing that we could be thinking about as a board in terms of policy or making our schools more equitable or solving the issues through there? I know, yes, are there things like that we should be thinking about?
I think that there are, but I'm not personally aware of other boards of education actually being involved. But I think that what you all are doing with the neighborhood, the community learning centers, presents a really good opportunity to be able to be doing something else.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we're going to have our speakers come up. Jim Schwab is the president and CEO of Interact for Health, and one of the major funders of some of the health projects, the primary medical care especially, and he's going to talk with you a little bit about what's been done. Do you want to drive that, or you want to?
Can you do that? Thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to bring you an update on the School-Based Health Center Initiative. Before, I want to introduce a couple of my colleagues because they've really done most of the work on these projects. But first, Francie Woolgan, who's back here. Francie is our senior program officer who has been intimately involved on a day-to-day basis in the creation of what are now 20 health centers in the Cincinnati Public Schools, and she has her fingerprints on every single one of those every day, all day. And then my boss, Tom Kleindienst, who's the chairman of the board of Interact, and I'm going to say just a couple words about Interact, but you may know Tom not only from that role, but from his intimate role in the School for Creative and Performing Arts, which you just heard from earlier. And like Tom, I've had some history with the Cincinnati Public Schools because I went to College Hill School, Schwab Junior High School, and Woodward High School. So I'm. This is a labor of love for
the center of the universe.
Yes, it is. A labor of love for both of us. So thanks for the opportunity. This slide, I think the important point here is that this is when we put these health centers together, there is a financial model that works if we get enough kids and parents and staff and even in some cases folks from the community to participate and use these centers. the billing procedures and practices allow these, once they get up and running, to be financially self-sustaining. But we are at Interact, we're a grant maker, we do policy work, we've now actually moved from a health care approach to a health promotion strategy, focusing on healthy eating, active living, emotional well-being, and healthy choices about substance use. So while we're going to continue our involvement with school-based health centers, we're a funder primarily and an organizer. And what you see on this chart in front of you is all of the other partners. One point along the way, we had 30 different organizations involved in putting these together across our city. And you'll see a reference to oral care in the case of Crest and Oral-B and the Oral Health Foundation and Delta Dental. We're building one in Western Hills, an oral care center. Well, we'll have 4 dental chairs there when we're finished. We have Children's Hospital that you may know just stepped in and overnight took over for the management of 3 of our school-based health centers when neighborhood health care closed. We have 1 site, so we're focusing there on the vision care as well as oral care. So all of those are important. You'll hear more from Marilyn a little later on about how those are all closely integrated to education, success, and achievement, which is really what this is all about. A special call out for the Greater Cincinnati Foundation, the United Way, and Deaconess Health Check, which has been very supportive of the activity over in Western Hills with their funding. So this is a collaborative effort, and of course it's a special thanks to the school board and school system, because the facilities we use after they're built are provided to us free of charge, which we appreciate very much. And is a very important, integral part of the work that we do. So that's I think the important takeaway from this slide. If you move to the next, the goals of the collaborative effort. We've been involved in this effort at Interact since our beginning, which is 1997. We have spent over that period of time about $17 million on the development of these school-based health centers. So not only the centers themselves, but some great longitudinal studies that show the difference, the importance of health on academic achievement. What we do is look for schools in the system where there are enough kids who are Medicaid eligible and enough kids per se. We get consents from the parents and support from the PTO organizations to make sure these can be viable. We have, as I mentioned, we know how these things work from a financial point of view, at least Francie does, so she knows how to put the numbers together, and then we go attract other funders to help in this process. We really got started again on this when we had a crisis at the city funding level, when there was a threatened pullback in funding for the school nurse program, and we were able to use that crisis really to generate a recommitment of effort for this whole program, and in that past 2.5 to 3 years really have doubled the number of school-based health centers. So these are all run by terrific providers, and you'll hear more about them, but the Cincinnati Health Department has a number of those that they do, and they've been a terrific partner, as well as Mercy Health and WinMed and Crossroads. So it's as I say, a real cross-section of the activity and the providers in the community. So just one last map. This shows you the location of the school-based health centers, those that are active, those that are new. We have good discussions underway at Riverview. I can't see it on the map. Should be. Oh, there it is. Riverview East, which is actually in my neighborhood, and at Rothenburg and over in Sailor Park, where we're trying to, and Mount Airy, where we're trying to get new ones off the ground, or they're pretty much ready to get started once the new school year gets underway. So this is we have a great new facility at Woodward High School, which we just dedicated a couple of months ago, and so this is terrific. We're very proud of this, all of us who have worked on it, and especially at Interact, and we appreciate your support very much, and look forward to continuing to build these where the opportunity presents itself. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Yes, Stansby.
Yes.
Bob, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good to
Hi.
see you. Yeah, I just want to personally take the time to thank you and Interact for Health for being a leader in our area with providing the funding necessary to carry out our school-based health centers. I've been visiting schools since I've been elected to school board, and I am so impressed with the things that I see there. We do know, we just heard a presentation about life expectancy, and we do know just the health of our young people is just so detrimental, especially in the communities and households where our kids come from. So I think Interact for Health serving as a key model in our region for other funders to really step up and pour in the support. And I love the collaboration and all the entities that are there.
And we do too, and thank you very much for that. And when Marilyn speaks a little later, you'll see that it isn't just about the buildings, but there's a lot of infrastructure support, a lot of personal care provided by the professionals involved, and many of those are school personnel. So it's a true partnership. And you know, from my point of view, we're just getting started. I mean, we're sort of dealing with illnesses. Maybe at some point we can start to deal with how do we get our kids healthy and keep them healthy and extend that to staff, and which I know you're doing anyway, but staff in the community, and parents. So there are lots of opportunities, I think, down the road. So thank you for the partnership. Thank you.
Hoffman.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you all again, echoing what Erica said, and just the direct connection between our kids being able to have access to these services and their academic achievement. I don't know if it's as obvious to most people as it truly is to, you know, I was a classroom teacher for a number of years, and I remember having a student who, he was so far behind, and realizing one day every time I passed out a paper to him, he would go like this. Yep. And so then saying, well, maybe he can't see. Maybe that's why he's so far behind. And we only had a traveling nurse who came through once a month. So we used to say, all right, kids, today's your day to get sick, right? You know, this is it. And I took him to see her, and sure enough, she said it was one of the most severe situations she had ever seen. But unfortunately, his family couldn't get him to an eye doctor, and he was living with a grandmother, so she didn't even have the health benefits for him if she could have even gotten him somewhere. And just thinking how, if he could walk down the hall and get a vision test and eyeglasses, how that would have changed his academic career. And just how directly this impacts our kids' ability to achieve on an absolute level. It's a game changer for our kids. So thank you sincerely for all the work that you do.
So Marilyn can tell you some more stories, Dr. Crumpton, excuse me about that. Maybe she will, but they're amazing stories, and some, it doesn't take much to make a huge difference, which I think that's the excitement we all share from this. So thank you.
I would be remiss if I did not also say that of all the organizations I can think of, and there are so many that help us and support us in, with our efforts with our students and our families, the Health Foundation or Interact for Health at this point in time actually, to me, is one of the organizations that just always sees the possibilities. I'm reminded of something Mrs. Hoffman said a few weeks ago about, well, why don't we start with saying yes? And I know that every time we go to you and every time that we need something, you start with yes, and then you try to figure out how to make it happen and how to fund it. And I just, this is really remarkable. Yeah. It really is.
Thank you.
They're leading the nation.
It's a partnership, and you're there helping us, as is Mary, so we thank you all for your support too. So thank you. Thank you.
So now Rucky Mers, who is the Public Information Officer from the Health Department, is going to come and talk a little bit more about the partnership with the city beyond the school-based health centers, some of the things. Okay.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks so much for having us here tonight. Yeah, I think partnership, you'll hear that theme throughout what we're talking about tonight, because in this case, it really is the truth. There's the partnership, the longstanding partnership between the city and the Board of Education and Cincinnati Public Schools on many of these issues, and then also with the private sector and other governmental entities. This truly is a prime example of how partnership can work well, and as a result of that, we're getting national attention for what's happening in our schools. I don't think I can really say it any better than what's already been said tonight, but there's no doubt that the health and well-being of our students and creating a group of students that are able to be future leaders and have success in their careers and their professional endeavors are inextricably linked. And you can't have the latter if you don't have the former. And so this is something that has been recognized by our forefathers and our foremothers for generations here in Cincinnati, and we're fortunate for that. The school nurse program started back in the 1930s, and it was addressing this exact issue. They realized that if you don't have kids well and in the classroom and in a position to succeed, they're never really going to have much of a chance to do those things. Basic problems that keep them from learning can be prevalent. And so the school nurse program was really designed to do that. So there's been a long history of that, and it's primarily involved the city, the health department, and Cincinnati Public Schools co-funding that program, where they had school nurses in all of the elementary schools. I guess then the other thing I would mention is that fast forwarding from the 30s up until 2002, which I know you all are very familiar with, this joint effort between the city and the Cincinnati Public School Board. But back in 2002, there was really an effort to get the city and CPS together around the facilities master plan. I know you all are aware of this because there's a renaissance, a resurgence of this joint effort that you're all involved in. But for those that may be watching that don't know, there were several seeds planted, is the way I like to think about it, back in 2002, where the city and CPS realized we've got this amazing opportunity to build these centers that can really be community hubs that can be uniquely designed for the needs of a specific neighborhood. In one neighborhood, health issues might be more important. In another neighborhood, tutoring or after-school opportunities might be more important. But let's work together and make sure we're really taking advantage of these opportunities. One of those seeds were those health issues. And so fast forwarding from 2002, where you had the policymakers, such as yourself and those that were on council at the time, former Governor Jack Gilligan and David Crowley, who was on city council, planted many seeds. But one of them was this idea of the schools and health issues. So fast forwarding now, up until 2011, as Mr. Schwab indicated, there was a funding crisis that came along, and it really was the partnership that not only saved the program, but figured out a way to do it smarter, more efficiently, and bolster the services that were provided at schools. And that's what we now know as the school-based health center model. And so it started out with just a couple of these school-based health centers, but with the involvement of Interact for Health and a whole myriad of partners, there was an opportunity. You're going to hear a lot more about that. I'm really just providing an introduction for Paul and Dr. Crumpner, who can talk about this in more detail. But the school-based health center model really blossomed. It was one of the seeds that took off and was rooted, and it's been wildly, wildly successful. Just at the Cincinnati Health Department, in a couple of years, we've gone from having 2 school-based health centers to now we've got 10 soon to come online. And there's, I think, 20-something in the whole district. And one of the reasons we've been able to do this is because of what's known as a federally qualified health center. And I just want to touch on that for a minute, for those of you who may not be familiar. A federally qualified health center is a designation from the federal government that says you're going to serve a certain population that's been traditionally underserved. And in exchange for this designation, the federal government gives you an enhanced reimbursement rate for the services that you provide. Back in 2009, the health commissioner, Dr. Massaro, and the team that was there at the time had the foresight. They actually started working on it before then. But in 2009, they achieved this designation, which is no small undertaking. And what it meant was that the city of Cincinnati health centers could now receive almost double the reimbursement rate for Medicaid services. So instead of getting $50 or $60 for a visit, you can get $120, $130 for a visit. In addition to this benefit, you can get grant money that just helps underwrite those services. So in 2009, the health department was just designated as an FQHC lookalike, which is for the most part what we are today. It gets a little more complicated than that. I'll spare you the details. But the point being, all those partners that Jim mentioned earlier on that slide came together and said these services are too important to let go by the wayside. And the way it's worked is they've identified where we need a new school-based health center. The private sector has come forward, whether it be through Interact or through Deaconess or all of our other partners, come forward with the initial startup money that gets the building built. Again, the generosity of CPS allowing these to be in your facilities is also a big part of what makes it work. But they get seed money to get them off the ground and get the startup costs underway. And then you've got the school nursing program, which is kind of the infrastructure in terms of the health piece that it's built upon. And then because of the enhanced reimbursement rates, they become self-sustaining. So we've now bolstered and improved service. I like to think of it as a school nurse on steroids. Then that's not a medical term, I'm sure. But instead of just doing immunizations and taking tests, they can actually treat on site, which is critically important. Student doesn't have to lose hours or days going to get their asthma medication or getting a prescription. They can be treated right there. So that's been something that's been wildly successful. It's an opportunity you're going to hear a lot more about. Another thing is that the health department serves as the official medical consultant for Cincinnati Public Schools. So we're also involved in disease monitoring, looking to see what kind of outbreaks are happening. Fortunately, you don't hear about a lot of them because our nurses and others get out there and address them before they become major problems. And data gathering is another area that we've really been able to enhance through the school-based health centers, and also through, we've gone to electronic medical records. I think we've got just about all the schools are in the process of either have been or in the process of being upgraded to electronic medical records. So we can start looking at this population data and getting a better picture of exactly what's happening so we can bring the right resources to bear at the right time, so we can be more efficient and wiser with our dollars. So we're just representing a larger group who've worked on these issues quite a bit. It's been a very successful collaboration, as I said. We're getting attention from New York, from the state of Ohio, from every time I talk to Dr. Crumpton, she's on her way to or from DC. And all of this is because people said that these services are too important, and we realize if we don't have kids that are healthy and well and in the classroom, we're not going to have a healthy and well future Cincinnati. And that's really what this is all about at the end of the day. So thank you so much for your time, and thanks for having us here tonight and all your support. We really look forward to, I mean, as Mr. Schwab indicated, this is just the beginning.
Thank you, Rocky. Any questions or comments for Mr. Mers? Thanks.
Thanks. And I'm going to ask Paul Rudolph to come up. Paul Rudolph is the new executive director for Growing Well, and I work alongside Paul as the medical advisor. And so this is another way in which we're partnering about things. But one of the things that I'd like for you to just get a look at is these are the schools that we're talking about and the age ranges. And I think Mr. Rudolph did a great job of showing the way you can look at the populations being served by the schools. One of the things is that we had never really been able to accomplish high schools getting health services. And that's one of the things that I want to thank the district for, is realizing that adolescents are the most unserved population for health services in the country. And so everyone's been trying to look at a way to get to that. And the fact that we have been able to open up health centers in several of the high schools by several of the partners has really given us the opportunity to begin to say our kids can more successfully move into college because they're going to be healthier. So the problem, just quickly, asthma is a major part of it, and the fact that children don't access their care. And so you may want to know, you may have a good concept of what school-based health is, especially if you've been visiting, but we want to talk about what it is and why we feel like it's so important. The things that have been demonstrated with research, I think, are really important. And again, the fact that the students not enrolled in health centers have lost more seat time, and we continue to see that that's true. And I was talking in Columbus today to the Health Policy Institute of Ohio, and one of the things that I said to them is, we've been trying to come up with a term for it, and the best term I could think of is collateral absenteeism, and that's when, because a child is sick and a mom has to come and pick them up, she doesn't just pick up a child, she picks up her whole family, because it's going to take so long to get to the health services and back. And so that's one of the pieces that a health center can help with, is that collateral absenteeism. And then the other is, and I'm going to show you a slide, is the reduced hospitalization and increase in attendance, particularly for children with asthma. And this has been one of the partnerships that you've been doing with Children's Hospital for several years. And we keep taking it to a more sophisticated level, and Children's has involved the school nursing program and the school-based health centers in some really complex quality improvement processes to really try to see if they can reach out into the community, just like Dr. Jones was talking about, those pockets of where the problems are, using the schools as a way to reach out to those kids who are only show up in the emergency room, who are only showing up in the hospital, and try to find them and get them connected to the medicines that they need. Also, that children who report having tooth pain are 4 times more likely to have a low-grade point average. And at this point, I'm going to ask Paul to talk, because he's been heading up our Children's Oral Health Network, and it's been doing some amazing things that I'm really excited about.
Should we go to dental slides? Okay, great. Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for having us, and thank you for your continued support. Okay, great. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit in this presentation and talk about oral health. You know, here's some facts, some stats that are pretty astounding. And that dental decay is the most chronic disease in children. In the state of Ohio, it's the largest unmet health need in children. And, you know, one of the facts I don't have up here that really stands out in my mind is the fact that about every year, Children's Hospital here in Cincinnati does 1,800 full mouth rehabilitations. What that means, it's the average age of a 4-year-old going under general anesthesia, which is not the safest place to be, to have nearly every tooth either taken out of their mouth or rehabilitated. Now, the most staggering thing about that, 100% of that is preventable. And that's the opportunity we have with providing services in the neighborhoods. And that's the opportunity we have by utilizing the community learning center model inside of these schools. And so about 1.5 years ago, we had the Children's Oral Health Network get together, which is a myriad of different partners between the health department, the school district, the hospital, organized dentistry, to talk about putting in permanent solutions into the neighborhoods. And so here what we have is a Delta Dental Center at Euler. It's a 3-chair clinic. We decided, again, we wanted to go with a permanent model so we could service the neighborhood needs. Now, Cincinnati Health Department's been doing a great job for a number of years of, as the school nurses identify immediate decay, which, by the way, is in 1 out of every 9 children in CPS. Anybody in this room could look in their mouth and identify the decay. We don't need a DDS degree. So the health department's been transporting the Crest Smile Shop, but now we're going to take a different approach, a more progressive approach, proactive, and do the preventative treatment. And with this, we have a model where we have Cincinnati Health Department operates this facility. They're going to operate the facility at West High Dater, which can be a 4-chair clinic. And they do it in partnership with the Cincinnati Dental Society's Oral Health Foundation, which brings in donated dentists from across our community to see these children and provide them the one-on-one care, especially for the uninsured population. But kind of going back to that stat of the full mouth rehab, the early childhood caries epidemic, my favorite statistic we've seen out of here so far, out of the 1,200 encounters in this facility that started in September, is nearly 10% are for children ages 0 to 4. And that's because of the community learning center model, because we're being able to identify those kids in the preschool programs and bring them down. We have the attention of the national dental organizations because, once again, Cincinnati's being a leader. And so I thank you for your support.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, that's good. And I'm going to go through these very quickly. I wanted you to see this slide, help you kind of understand what the Vision Center's been doing for kids. And it's been some amazing stories. I think y'all had the opportunity to see what we call the Sadie video, which is the young lady who was identified by her mentor as having difficulty writing very large letters that were very difficult to read, and the amazing improvements she had once she had glasses, and that mentor really recognized what the problem was. So drilling down to some of the specific problems, and as Dr. Jones was talking about the problems that cause mortality, there's also the problems that impact the child's future, and dental and vision problems are a couple of the things that we really realized that were part of the problem. And I didn't want to skip over the problem of access to care. So I wanted you to see that in Ohio, one of the biggest things to recognize is, and this affects all of us because it affects our insurance premiums, that in Ohio we have a 29% higher utilization of the emergency department. And that really says a lack of access to care. And so that's what another piece of what the school-based health centers are there for, is to make sure that parents have another choice than just to say, oh, I don't have a regular doctor, I'll just go to the emergency room. And there's a reason for that, because if they have asthma, their outcomes are much worse if they only use the emergency room. The other thing is, and Paul helped us sort of look at this according to chronic illness rates by schools. What you don't see are the school names, but we can share those with you if you'd like. And that there are very high rates of chronic illness in some of the schools. So it really, having that data helps us to begin to drill down to what the problems are. And I want to stop and just recognize Kathy Reeder, who is sitting back up in the one of the back aisles, and she's the nursing supervisor. She really has done work. She's been with the program years, and before she was the nursing supervisor, had a real passion for the data, and so she's really done a lot to drive the sophistication of the data collection so we could come back and give you the information on why and where and what we want to do, and with limited dollars, where we think the money is best spent. This is the other thing, is to look at the fact that we constantly are adding and looking to add new partners, and especially related to primary care, because we've seen so much lack of access to care and how much it affects children. So that just gives you a little slide to show you the who. And some of the centers. Mr. Schwab was at Withrow for the wonderful opening, and it's posted on the website if you want to really feel good. That's a great video to go look at about the opening of that center. And also Deaconess at Western Hills and Dater. Between these two sites alone, for example, there are 2,400 students on the one campus and 1,400 on the other. These are all high schoolers, and we are just being overwhelmed by the amount of just physicals we're doing, immunizations we're giving. I want to give you just a number so you can see what I'm talking about. That so far this year, we've given 4,992 flu vaccines, and we've given 1,465 other vaccines, and those are kids who, I guess technically, not with flu, but for the other vaccines, might be eliminated for school for noncompliance with vaccines. And that's one of the things we've been able to do between our partnership with you, is to say, let's don't exclude kids from school, because that's not going to help them perform. And it may not help them, and that's what we learned, it may not help them get immunized. They may just move to a different school, you know, because they couldn't get the vaccine. So really bringing the solution to the school and to the students. And the Vision Center represents so many partners. It's just a great example of how many people stepped up when we started talking about the problem. So far this year, 1,700 kids have gotten vision services, so we're ahead of where we were at the end of the year last year, and that was with the one-site museum center program, which we knew was ending last year. So we're going to end up this year significantly more children in the district getting screened. About 70% of the children who come to the Vision Center end up getting glasses because they've been screened and re-screened. So we're pretty sure they probably need glasses. And one other thing is we're getting referrals from teachers which has been great and interesting, because they will say, I had a student and they're looking like this all the time, or like you were talking about, they hold the page right up to them. So the teachers are very astute in picking up the impact on academics. And for some of these children, they haven't realized it, their parents haven't realized it. So it's a great partnership. And I will say that if you haven't visited the Vision Center, it is so state of the art, and we are so proud of the partnership and the fact that now New York City has a video out where they're talking about the Vision Center they're going to develop at the Bronx and Brooklyn based on the model that was created here with your partnership and your leadership. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but we are trying to move into things that help us really identify where children are and where their needs are. And this is just to call out that there are projects going on that look at how we can better identify children that might have behavioral health issues and get them into the care they need promptly. And just also to let you know, and if you've ever seen me do a presentation, you've probably seen this slide. CDC has probably now over 30 years worth of research that says if you do all these things, you're going to impact health of students. If you don't do them all, you aren't going to have the same impact. And I just want to point out one thing at the bottom. See that staff health promotion? One of the things Ms. Ronan said to me several years ago was, she said, oh my goodness, we are just spending so much money on staff health insurance. And so she really got busy, and she got the program, the Healthy Lifestyles program that you have here, and I know probably that that's been reported out, the wonderful impacts. There are two benefits. When there are healthy adults around children, children behave more healthy. So we've done that, and hopefully your health costs that you're having to spend for your staff is better. The other thing, you want to talk a little bit about this then?
Yeah, just to point to how we're utilizing the data on a school-by-school basis. So this is a report that we give to the resource coordinators, and it gives them a chance to look at different health aspects and how they compare to their peer schools. So how do they compare to the other elementary schools if they're in elementary school? And with this, we've already seen in a short time, the resource coordinators use this to engage other partners to identify neighborhood-specific solutions to drive wellness. Nutrition.
So I know you guys are great fans of Jessica Shelley and the great work she's doing. So enough said about the great and phenomenal work that she does and that you've done as leaders. You have the future USDA guidelines already in place here, and innovations such as the salad bar have just been phenomenal in helping us move toward policy changes and population changes that we can't do. You can't see children enough time in a health center to help them eat healthier. You can, over time, work with them, but it takes more than a visit to the doctor's office to make that happen. So thank you for doing that and for recognizing and valuing that part of wellness. The other thing that you've done, and I know you've had that presentation about the great anti-idling and the published reports that really demonstrated that if we have great anti-idling programs, it does affect children, and most especially children with asthma. So thank you for participating in that research and making that change. The other is safe routes to schools, and it is the most logical part of thinking about ways to improve health through policy changes. And I love the logo that you created. I think that it really says it all, and it really helps to point out that a part of our role as schools and neighborhoods is to begin to help people think about safety, and we do that sort of one student at a time by helping students be healthier, walk more, and walk more safely, which I think is a key point of it. Do you want to talk?
Yeah, I'll just talk about this really quick. The Alliance for Healthier Generation, I believe you guys have signed on to this. We have schools that are enrolling What this is an inventory of the diet and physical activity within a school. And so it's over 100 questions. The school goes through it and sees how they compare, not just locally, but across the nation. There's over 20,000 schools nationwide that are on this system. And so we're utilizing this as the framework as we have all these different unique activities that are going on in the school to show how, again, it's moving the needle and making it a healthier population.
And one thing I would say is Meredith Potter has done a great job as the sponsor working with us. And if we could do one thing, it would be to have every school fill out that inventory every year and really think about what they need to do to make their school be a healthier environment. And that's what she's trying to help us drive toward. Just to point out, physical education, this is a wellness event at Fairview. And just to say that in every way we can, in the ways we can incorporate physical activity, because that's one of our unmet goals, is to ensure that we have a great count on how much physical activity students are getting and that they're hitting the mark in that vision we have at every school. And then I wanted to talk with you a little bit about the Frederick Douglass Center for Better Health and Nutrition, which has been open now not quite a year, and just tell you a couple of things about it. Bob Siegel is the director of the Center for Better Health and Nutrition at Children's. And so one of our community members Jeff went and talked to me, and then he said, I just would love to see us do something. I said, well, at Children's, Bob Siegel is there. He's the pediatrician that could help make it happen. So Jeff left me and went directly over and met with Bob, and he really kind of drove the project together and the people to work on it. I want to show you some of the partners that are there. And really, this is an investment that Children's is making in the district. They're trying to look at this first in the nation, bringing this Center for Better Health and Nutrition into a school setting, using the partners that you see here to design a way to do programming that really wasn't happening. The kids that we were identifying that had really high BMIs, really at risk for the complications related to their high BMIs and leading to early onset of diabetes, the adult version of diabetes, which I never saw until the last 10 years. And now all of a sudden we're seeing middle schoolers developing adult onset diabetes, which really just tells you how serious the problem is. But this is designed to really look at the national problem and use innovative solutions. And so they've actually been sort of tracking the number of their students that are attending, and they're having great results. So they're really pleased with the fact that having this service available at the school is making a difference. And doing some programs, so it's not just what they do with the individual students that come in and they treat them in a doctor's office setting and they give them nutrition counseling and they have this therapist that talks to them about behavioral issues, and then the exercise physiologist who talks to them about exercise, and then they actually go back and the after-school program makes it happen. And more than that, they went into the school and they did some specific things, and this is an example of something they tested. They tested a way to have the kids drink more white skim milk than chocolate milk, because there's just that little bit of sugar in the chocolate milk. So they were really incentivizing the students, and as you can see, they saw a marked improvement in doing that. So that's it in terms of the slides that we have. One of the things I wanted to do was ask the people that are part of the programming that's going on to stand up so they can be recognized. Stand up. Come on, guys. Oh, yeah.
Any questions, comments? Mr. Manera.
Well, Dr. Crumpton, thank you very much for everything you're doing. And Paul, thank you so much for the continuing effort to improve the healthcare of our students' dental needs and everything else that you do. I guess it's more of a challenge of something you are aware and something that you guys hit on, and I guess everybody that spoke, is some of these groups that we've identified that haven't received as much services. I'm going to be an advocate for this on this board, and that is our Hispanic population, as you know. And part of that entails that component of healthcare that is key, which is compliance and education. A lot of that is cultural. A lot of those barriers that we're seeing here at the board with our 3% of our population being Hispanic families is, and I wouldn't even go just Hispanic, just our English as a second language families is that compliance, that cultural component of what it means to go to the health center, and also the language barrier, getting them the resources and the education on their native language. But what I also want to praise you for, and also challenge you to continue to do, is I know you're looking for professionals that speak the language, that are culturally updated to serve in these health centers. So just keep plowing forward on that. It's making a big difference, because I know we talked about the services that the students are receiving, but it's also for our parents. A lot of these community health centers are being open after school, so the parents can come in. And also our teachers can benefit from that, and they don't have to miss school as well. So no more calling in sick, right? I think that's what we're aiming for.
Yeah.
But so thank you very much. It was more of a statement, challenge, and kudos to continue doing what you're doing, because it's amazing.
And, if you look at school-based health centers and school health, one of the things that they talk about culturally appropriate services, and that's a very easy thing to say and a very difficult thing to deliver on.
Thank you for recognizing that.
And so we really hear that request. And one of the things I would say is students don't tell us what's wrong sometimes until the services are totally culturally appropriate, and then all of a sudden they open up and we find out they can't see, or their tooth is killing them, and they just weren't comfortable because they don't think they're supposed to be in pain or they're supposed to have a problem. And so you're exactly on target with the culturally appropriate. It's so vitally important to making the program successful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Coons.
I just want to say that I also appreciate the work you guys are doing. This thorough presentation is a representation of how thorough the work actually is out here in our communities. And I mean, I've seen it firsthand where these centers have completely changed people's lives, educationally and beyond. So again, appreciate it and keep up the great work. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. We now move to the part of our meeting for acknowledgements and retirements and kudos. Vice President Nelms, do you have any kudos for us, sir?
I had a kudo, but it must have shudo. But let's see though.
Well, we'll do the retirements first.
Yeah.
Yes, we have 3 retirements on our superintendent's report, and the first one is Judith Geiger-Colgrove, a speech pathologist. Also Theodora Zanders, a substitute teacher, and Brenda Clark, a paraprofessional, and we thank them for their service.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Now, Mr. Nelms.
Okay, my kudos is congratulations to Cincinnati Public Schools for receiving the 2014 Green Business Award, and that simply is for having 23 LEED certified buildings. CPS is one of the highest LEED certified districts in the nation, and one of the certification requirements is to have single stream recycling at LEED schools. So CPS decided to create a district-wide recycling program, thus receiving this award. So congratulations and kudos to CPS.
One additional kudos, I was at the award ceremony, and we also received an award for the Safe Routes to School program. There were a few different categories, and we received 2 awards, so just want to make sure they get a mention as well.
Thank you, and Mr. Coons should be cited, very frankly, in being one of our leaders, if you will, the leader, regarding the whole recycling effort in this district. Thank you very much for that. And now it's time Now it's time for hearing the public. We are now at that item, and each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak, and Mrs. Witt will be our timekeeper. When the buzzer goes off, your 3 minutes are up, and please refrain from discussing any personnel matters. And tonight we have with us Joyce Glover, and also Quentin Pearson joining us, I believe. Come on down. Mr. Pearson is from the PTO, Parent Teacher Organization at John P. Parker, and his topic is the Eastern Corridor and MedPace. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for the welcome. John P. Parker School, Parent Teacher Organization, 5051 Anderson Place, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45227. Kimberly R. Mack, Principal. To the Superintendent, President of the Board, thank you for the opportunity. The John P. Parker Parent Teacher Organization, PTO, wishes to inform you that we oppose the Red Bank Roadway Improvement Project, MedPace Connector. The plans as presented jeopardize the safety and welfare of our children. The land is currently used to enhance student learning in all of the Common Core content areas: science, math, social studies, and English language arts. We have an active garden on the land and are currently working to build a soccer field and an exercise track beside the garden. We also would like to expand our garden to include a pumpkin patch. We oppose the project because it will negatively affect our efforts to provide a well-rounded education and a safe environment for our students. We hope that any future plans will consider the effect upon our students and make sure that it is a positive one. This is still a position at this time that we are standing. In a meeting today, March 10th, 2014 at 2:30, we spoke with Mayor Cranley in regards to MedPace and the road that they desire to run through the school property. The PTO is very concerned about the school and community of Madisonville, and we are aware that they are expressing a need for development in our neighborhood to expand their dreams. But however, what about the dreams of the men, women, and children of Madisonville and the students at John P. Parker? We have a voice as well, and we like to be heard. There are several vacant buildings in the surrounding area that are laying dormant at this time, yet no one seems to be paying attention to it. Why? Why continue to build and create what they so-called desire? But who is looking out for the ones who are in need and the less fortunate that are right under our noses? Someone has to be the voice, and that is why we are here today. We will not be silent anymore. We are families in this community, and we are looking to move forward about a change for the better, and yes, I did say for the better. We are taking a stand against division among our ranks, and because of this, we are able to tighten our cords. Together we will stand, and together we will overcome. Sincerely, the John P. Parker, PTO.
Thank you very much. I do know, as a result of a meeting we had this evening, the LSDMC, the PTO, the Community Council is going to be invited to speak and have a conversation with the board in 2 weeks from tonight.
Yes,
so we will be sending out those invitations from both the superintendent and myself on behalf of the board so that we can continue this conversation. And we welcome you being here tonight and certainly support your efforts to continue to build that PTO and all the good stuff that you do for John Parker. So thank you very much. We appreciate it, and we'll be seeing you in 2 weeks, and you'll get the invitation.
Thank
the
you.
board's anxious to have a conversation with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
We have now, I think Mrs. Glover must have left. We now will move on to a vote for a resolution. We have one resolution tonight for board approval, and Mr. Coons, as chair of the Public Engagement Committee, would you please introduce that resolution for us?
Gladly. I present a resolution to request a waiver for alcohol use at the School for Creative and Performing Arts 40th anniversary celebration. I present the resolution as written.
Thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Any questions or discussion or comments?
Yeah, I do have a an amendment that was brought up by Mrs. Walsh right before we started, and not all the board was here. I was the only one here, and that's why it wasn't directed through Mr. Coons. But it is written on the second paragraph where it says, "Whereas to serve and sell," and that "and sell" is not part of it, so we need to strike that. And also, that is found at the very last paragraph. Right after creative and performing arts, to serve and sell, and that "and sell" it needs to be stricken. And according to the principal and Mrs. Walsh, that shouldn't have been there. So just making that amendment.
Okay, so
And I think that's something that we discussed, Mr. Coons, that it wasn't to sell over at the committee. So I just think it was an oversight.
So we have a friendly amendment and a
The amendment is definitely
revised
accepted.
resolution accepted.
Yeah.
Great. Any other comment or question? Mr. Nelms, do you have anything you wanted to say?
Those was my questions, but you answered them rather succinctly, so thank you for the clarification, and I don't have any other questions.
Great.
I wanted to
Yes,
just
sir.
point out that this did go through Partnership and Public Engagement Committee, and as Mr. Manera mentioned, it won't be sold. It'll be served in a very ceremonious fashion to members that are, to folks that are attending. So it's gone through committee, and we think that it's a pretty harmless and festive resolution.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, Mrs. Witt.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. And now, we're not sure how long or how in detail this will be, but we have had both our superintendent and our treasurer recommend to us 2 weeks ago the need for the renewal, the levy renewal of $65 million renewal, and the request by them and the suggestion and recommendation that it be on the ballot in November. And we wanted to have an opportunity if there was any follow-up questions or any discussion that needed to take place. Do you have any more of a presentation? Is that what I'm seeing there?
Well, yes, actually, we have several slides. Obviously, our budget goes to support our academic priorities, which are the priorities of the board. And this is the current operating budget for fiscal year 14. And we also have included, and as you can see, it's $474 million. And actually, currently, we're only bringing in $449 million in revenue. So to make up that, and it shows you actually where all the revenue comes from, and we have been using our carryover to fill that gap. But we have not had new money in Cincinnati Public since 2008. So as our carryover dollars run out and our budget still stays, let's flip to the last page. That is actually the areas in which our general fund budget is spent. If we were to lose the $65 million renewal levy in November, it would greatly impact all the operations you see on the screen. So the treasurer and I are recommending that the renewal be put on the ballot in November of 14 to keep our current operating budget with the dollars we currently have to support the priorities we have in the district. It will not raise taxes.
And that's our sentence we like to say. It is one word now.
Yes, it will not raise taxes.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
This is just the current, yes.
All together.
This is just to keep our current budget whole.
If I could ask a question, if we were fortunate enough to have the public agree that this needed to be passed in November, when would we begin to see the revenue generated from it, Madam Treasurer?
The current The current levy expires in December of 15. So the renewal then would be in effect starting in January of 16.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Coons.
I have a question, and this is out of left field, but would there be any wisdom to putting it on the ballot in the May election? Could we do that, and then if it doesn't pass, God forbid, we put it on again in the November election? Is that possible?
No, the earliest that you can go out is 1 year before the expiration of that one. So the earliest that we could go out for this levy would be in November of this year.
Okay.
Why am I not surprised that the superintendent and the treasurer are taking the first earliest opportunity to put it on the...
If it were to fail, we would be back in May of 15, because waiting till November of 15 would be frightening, considering the monies would run out 30 days later.
Yeah,
It would be a huge impact.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Mrs. Hoffman?
Yeah, so I think we all are aligned that this is absolutely essential to providing our children with an outstanding education. What are we going to at some point see the plan for our marketing of this to make sure that the community understands that it will not raise taxes and just how detrimental it will be to our kids in our community if it doesn't pass?
That would be yes.
Okay.
And I think we're allowed to say this because we're elected officials, but I think there is an initial planning meeting scheduled for this week. Is that correct? Is it Thursday, or Thursday at what time, sir?
5:30.
5:30 at Mayerson. Obviously, we can't do it in here, but so first kind of effort, and I think it's for Case to kind of reshape and rethink how we approach this. And I know the first request that's been made by both the treasurer and the superintendent and Case is that please don't wait till the summer to vote for this, because we have to start communicating the need and do so in a way that is appropriate. Good point. Other questions or comments? It would be the chair's hope that we would have a vote on this renewal going on to the ballot as early as in 2 weeks. But what do you need from us to further what you have to do regarding the county auditor or anybody else? Is that where are you with that?
I believe we need a resolution, correct? So our treasurer will have to talk to the county auditor.
Yes, there's the resolution of necessity. There are three resolutions that, I think, 2 resolutions that we'll need, so we can start that process. So let me get with the county auditor and start getting those resolutions that you will need for the board to approve.
That would be great. And then is it possible that it might be as early as 2 weeks from today?
Absolutely. If I will certainly advise you if there's any delay.
Thank you very much, and talk to our staff to help you out with that as best you can. That was our discussion, and thank you for that presentation. And now we have the superintendent's, Superintendent Ronan, do you have a report for us?
That was my report, a request to move forward with the renewal. Thank you.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendations of the superintendent?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion from Mrs. Dansby and a second from Mr. Nelms. Any questions about this, the recommendations for the superintendent? Seeing none, roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby.
Aye.
Mrs. Hoffman.
Aye.
Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Nelms.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Do I have a motion to approve the report of the treasurer? The revised report of the treasurer, excuse me.
The revised report, so moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Bates. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Coons. Any questions or comments or clarifications needed from the treasurer? Mrs. Hoffman.
Yeah, I just had a question. There's a couple of different pretty big ticket items for technology on here. So $22,500 to Withrow and $1,000 to Rockdale, and that's fantastic to get all of that new technology to so many of our children. I think I'm wondering if what the plan is for all of that technology to be supported. There's nothing worse than having a lot of technology and no support behind it.
We have.
Certainly. Is Ms. Wagner here?
Is here. And you might want to repeat that or tell us which page.
Yeah, sure. On the first page, there's $22,500 going to Withrow, and then $1,000 for Kindle tablets to Rockdale. And just wondering how that's being supported, both just, in terms of the equipment, if it breaks down, et cetera, but also in terms of making sure teachers know how they're going to be using it in their classrooms, and that there's enough wireless internet in all these places to keep this stuff running and all of that good stuff.
Good question, Mrs.
I'm sorry, I
Wagner.
don't have a revised treasurer's report, so I haven't seen what you're talking about.
Do you want me to?
If you don't mind.
He's handing it off now. Pony Express.
So these are donations directly to the school from the Alumni Association. So that usually the school will typically contact us about how to support that. We have in the past worked with Luxottica on purchasing standard equipment, and we have field contracts where they will go in and help them get them set up. But Withrow, we've been working with them to try to get one-to-one devices from the seniors down to the juniors, and now they're trying to expand that continuing forward. And they've done a ton of PD with their teachers in order to get blending learning models into their classroom. Okay.
And there's Kindles at Rockdale.
Yeah, I wasn't unfamiliar with that one, so I can certainly follow up on it.
Great, thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And just, can I, President Bolton?
Go ahead.
Ms. Wagner, just on that note, and it has to do with, I hope if I understood Ms. Hoffman correctly, when someone donates this equipment, is there anything built in the budget to support it, to connect it to the network, image it, whatever it takes, or are we taking that factor, or is that factor not considered and then it adds cost to the district and puts more things to do for your department?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So we have a list of standards of donations, a minimum standard that we'll accept, because in the past, companies would donate us their old equipment, which is older and more difficult to work with than the equipment that we have. So there is a minimum standard that we'll accept, and then we ask them to put together a plan on how they plan on using that with instruction, or whatever their purpose is for accepting that donation, and we'll try to match up somebody from our staff to help them get that planned. But we ask them to do that in advance instead of after the fact, because it's hard to reallocate resources in a situation like that.
So should we consider, and I don't know if that would be an assignment, or as somebody donates something specific for equipment, to factor in the cost? I mean, I'm just thinking, we don't want to put money that we don't have to make equipment that we're being donated to use, but then because we don't have it, the equipment might not get used, and then nobody's purpose is being fulfilled. So I don't know how to proceed with that, but I just thought we can, I don't know if that's where you were heading, but I just feel like that's something we need to figure out.
Typically, if it's equipment that they're trying to replace or to help upgrade, then, and we'll work, and if it's equipment that we have experience with, we'll certainly work with them to help them get it set up and ready. If it's equipment that we're not familiar with, then we'd certainly ask them to help provide that expertise.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Any others? Roll call.
Mrs. Bates.
Aye.
Mrs. Copeland Dansby. Aye. Mrs. Hoffman. Mr. Coons.
Aye.
Mr. Manera.
Aye.
Mr. Hill.
Aye.
President Bolton.
Aye. Any board members have any inquiries or updates about any particular items?
Yeah, I would have one. I haven't seen friendly board reporter Jessica Brown, and I know she was expecting. Have you heard anything? And if so, have we done anything as a district and a board to just acknowledge the new birth?
She had a baby boy.
Okay.
All right.
Everybody's doing fine. No, I don't believe we have, but I think that would be a wonderful idea. And
can
I'm
we
happy to
consider-
be point on that.
Yeah, can we consider maybe a card and some balloons or flowers or whatever?
Absolutely.
Scholarship? No, I don't know about a scholarship.
Absolutely, we'll follow up on that.
A meal. as a-
Something, just to let her know we thinking about it.
Great idea, Mr. Nelms.
Ms. Walsh is up. I don't know if it has to do with an assignment or not, but Ms. Walsh, we've had some really good presentations like today regarding the health-based clinics, And we also had a really good presentation on the community learning centers a couple of weeks back. Is there any way to promote that anywhere, just maximizing our social media and website? Just because I think a lot of people in the community still want to know what they are. Yeah. And this would be a great opportunity just because they were very detailed, they're very extensive, and the key players were here presenting. I just think this is something that shouldn't just be archived, but also promoted and maybe linked to our other parts of the webpage where if you want to know more.
Great minds. I've captured those, the PowerPoints. We'll put them up, link the PowerPoints on the board page, and also send out the link for the stream, which will be archived within 24 hours. So great ideas will, it's not really a retweet, but sort of like that. We'll work on that.
And not to add more to the effort, but because the board meetings are pretty lengthy sometimes, if that could be narrowed down just for that information, it would be even better for the audience.
We'll work with our consultant on that.
Okay, thank you.
Along the baby lines, President Sellers just left, and she came here tonight in spite of the fact that her daughter is in labor, ready for the second grandchild. So we wish her well. I have a very mundane thing to ask after we're talking about babies and good stuff like that. Do we know when we will know any more about the vendors regarding transportation contract? Mrs. Wagner.
The review team is meeting on March 14th to go over the bids.
Great.
So shortly after that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments, any assignments? Hearing none.
Good night.
Not bad, not bad. Turn your mics off, everybody.
Thank you.